What's going on, everybody? It's that time again. Sooners Illustrated game preview time. Week 3, Oklahoma, Tulane, Saturday afternoon at the stadium. It's a 2:30 p.m. Central Time kick in Norman. It's going to be on ESPN. Going to be a hot one. We had two pretty moderate temperature games that were both at night, and then the hottest day so far, 2:30. So that's how that goes.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
What's that?
I said I'm sorry for you.
Yeah,
it's going to be sweaty.
Great weather last week though, so I guess you get spoiled.
It was a little chilly at the end of the game. Not going to be the case this weekend. Sooners in Great Wave. OU is 2-0. They survived Houston last week. It was a close call, but they got through it. Tulane comes in at 1-1. They destroyed Southeast Louisiana in their opener, and then had Kansas State on the ropes, but kind of just let it get away late. Controversial call, big turnover, and Tulane could not quite pull off the upset over Kansas State last week. But this is a good Green Wave team, coached by John Sumrall, who was at Troy before. Of course, Willie Fritz is now at Houston. We just saw him last week. Tulane's been one of the more consistently good G5 teams of the last several years. Oklahoma knows that very well. They came to Norman 3 years ago and almost beat the Sooners then. So, guys, I mean, obviously, we're coming off a close call with Houston just a few days ago, but this is pretty clearly the toughest test Oklahoma's had so far. The last 2 weeks, we've sat on these game previews and kind of just said, if Oklahoma does what they should, they're going to win by a lot. They did against Temple. They didn't last week. This weekend is different. This is a legitimate test. This Tulane team is good. This is a tough test for Oklahoma, the first real one of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this game circled since the offseason. You've heard me mention that even though Tulane is a G5 team, that they're probably going to be that toughest pre-SEC test for Oklahoma, just because the consistency that the program's had. John Sumrall is a really good coach. He went 23-4 in 2 seasons at Troy before moving on to Tulane, and they've got some dudes. Obviously, offensively, Mario Williams, very familiar name. He's off to a good start this year. Their running back was the AAC Rookie of the Year last year.
Beast.
First team all conference. Their quarterback's been good. I mean, he's a freshman, but this is going to be his first road start. So I'm curious to see how he handles that, because obviously that's not easy, especially going to a place with 85,000 people. But yeah, this is going to be a test for Oklahoma.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the good thing about it is I feel like OU doesn't have that, okay, we don't know what they are type of situation. This is a Tulane team that is a good team. It won't be a surprise if this is a good game on Saturday. So, I mean, Tom talked about it, the playmakers that Tulane has. That's going to be a big point. I mean, if they can run the football against this OU defense, that's going to cause some problems here. And so you really gotta knuckle down on that. Don't let that happen, because also they have a scrambling quarterback that can do. I mean, he can scramble and throw. That usually that's something that OU fears, I guess, in that situation, because they always struggle against those type of quarterbacks. So gotta put all that together. I mean, gotta put all that together. It could be a tough one. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Clearly the toughest test so far, and obviously coming off the Houston game, anxiety is high, and we'll see what happens this weekend. As far as injury report, a lot of Brent Venables being hopeful for guys. That's the buzzword of the week. Jake Taylor, Branson Hickman, both banged up. If they both don't go, it'll be Josh Bates at center and Logan Hallen presumably at tackle. Wouldn't probably bank on either guy going. Nick Anderson's still up in the air there too. Brent Venables has been kind of dodgy on that. Probably wouldn't bank on him playing either. I guess we'll find out and wait and see. They could use all those guys, but still on the mend as far as those big injury notes. And we'll keep an eye out, obviously, in warm-ups and things like that to see if it looks like maybe those guys are going to go on Saturday. But let's go ahead and get into the keys to the game for this one. Sooners in Green Wave. I think I'm starting for keys to the game this week. My key is pretty easy, I guess, or simple. Let's get Jackson Arnold going. Get him some layups early. It's been probably a long week for Jackson. We talked about it on Monday, Tom and I on the podcast. I mean, I personally think the calling for the backup is ridiculous. It's far too early for that stuff. That does not change the fact, and I said this on Monday, that Jackson has not played particularly well, especially in the second half last weekend against the Cougars. Just get him going, get him some layups early, get that confidence back. Against Temple, he was very decisive. Bang, bang is what I'm doing. He looked very assured of himself. I feel like that confidence was shaken a little bit last week. So maybe trying to get that back early would be a very big key for me in this game. Just you feel like you've got him in a good place mentally as this game goes along. So that's a big key for me. Get Jackson Arnold going, get that confidence, that swagger back. Huge key for me on Saturday. What about you guys?
Yeah, you want to help Jackson's confidence, get the run game going. The run game has just been poor through 2 games. And like the first game, they had over 200 yards, but like 84 of that was in the fourth quarter with the game well in hand when you're just kind of running out the clock. Last week, 75 yards, their fewest since pre-Brent Venables. I think it was the Texas Tech game in 2021. Their 2.6 yards per carry was their worst since West Virginia earlier in that season. And just their inability to run the ball effectively has put them in those really unmanageable third down situations, especially last week. You know what they averaged on first down runs last week?
It had like 2 yards.
2.8 yards per carry.
Yeah, like 2 yards.
First downs. Like that's just not going to cut it. You need to get these guys going. You know, Javonte Barnes talked about it earlier this week. Like Brent Venables wants them to be more violent. And to be violent, you need to be decisive. You need to hit those holes. And look, it's on the offensive line too. They need to do a better job of knocking guys off blocks and just creating a little bit of space for these running backs to work. But I mean, look, the running game has not been what we expected so far this season. I mean, Gavin Sawchuk's got 10 carries through 2 games for 19 yards.
Yeah.
Javonte Barnes has looked good in spurts, but there just hasn't been consistency there. Taylor Tatum still leads the team in rushing yards, and he only had 1 carry last week. They need to do something to get this run game going because that takes some of the pressure off Jackson Arnold and makes him feel like he doesn't need to just carry the weight of the world on his shoulders and will this team to win.
And I feel like we could do a whole pod just on the run game and possibly how to fix it and things like that. But I agree with both of what you guys said. I'm going to go on the defensive side for my key of the game. Get another turnover. I mean, OU is really, really good at turnovers right now. They have 8 through 2 games, which is tied for first in the nation. I mean, like they've done really well. And we saw Tulane was up against Kansas State at halftime. And then those 2 turnovers is what turned the game around. Like that really was what led Kansas State to win that game is those turnovers late. And, so I think the same thing can happen here with OU. If they get a turnover here, change the momentum, things like that, Tulane would have a hard time coming back from it like they did against Kansas State.
100%. In general, to form all our keys together, just get something going on offense. Can the offense score points? Big key on Saturday.
Get healthy on offense. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. I mean, Brent Venables talked about it. You got guys out there who are your 2s and 3s for a reason. I mean, that's what it was. They didn't get the reps that they needed, throughout the summer, throughout all fall camp, everything like that, trying to get ready. You got different guys out there, so that messes up timing. You see it with Jackson Arnold. You don't know. Can he make that play if I throw it here? I mean, is he a guy like that? Yeah. So that's why you see him do really, really well with the tight ends and Deion Burks. I mean, those are his go-to guys. Seems like right now because that's who he's familiar with. So
right.
And I know fans don't want to hear this, but the offense I think is a lot closer to clicking than it may seem on the results. I mean, you go back and you watch that Houston game. It's like, okay, the receivers weren't running precise routes. They were rounding things off or just not going full speed sometimes. And, that fraction of a second makes a difference in the timing. You got guys missing blocks up front because they haven't gotten a lot of reps together. You got, running backs, miscounting in the box and just kind of waiting there for a block that's not going to come instead of just jetting out for a in the flat for an easy dump down or to take a defender out for them. So it's just these little things that kind of stack up and compound. So I do think the offense is going to get there. It's just a matter of how quickly can they get there because they're running out of time.
100%. That big boulder of Tennessee is sitting out there. It's getting closer by the day, and we'll see. Let's go over to players to watch. Some guys we're looking forward to seeing on Saturday, whether they need to play better or you're hoping for a breakout, whatever it may be. Tom, we'll let you start players to watch.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with Nick Anderson. It's a promising sign that he is actually like practicing and doing like team drills this week.
Sure.
How much of him we'll see, if we'll see him at all, I mean, that's still up in the air.
Yeah, I don't know.
It sounds like it's trending in the right direction right now based on Brent Venables' comments yesterday. If they can get him back, that obviously opens up things a little bit more for the passing game. It gives Jackson Arnold someone he's more comfortable with, someone he's taken a lot of reps with throughout the offseason. But if Nick Anderson can't go, my guy to watch is Logan Howland, because we don't know what Jake Taylor's dealing with. We knew he was already banged up to begin with of the season. So Logan Howland could be in line for his first career start there. We'll see how he kind of handles that. But Brent Venables said he graded out pretty well stepping in there in his first time. I think he graded out like 76%. Did pretty good. Obviously room to improve, but this is a guy that played tight end in high school and got converted to a tackle. Kind of that Lane Johnson storyline again. So we'll see what kind of growth he can make from his first significant playing time into potentially his first start.
Yeah, I like those picks. I think Deion Burks for me is the guy to watch because, as I just said, like if they don't have their other receivers and things like that, it's obvious he's going to have to carry a big load for this team to be successful on offense. And so if that's the case again, it's going to take a really big game from him. I mean, the 3 touchdowns he had in the first game was what really, helped spark 51 points. I mean, so a guy like that, getting him going, I mean, that's the biggest thing. He has to stay healthy and he has to be the guy for them, especially if Nick Anderson can't go. I mean, like everybody's hopeful for is if Nick Anderson's out there, and it's a whole different thing. Like, obviously, he's the guy to watch. But as of right now, I think it's Deion Burks.
The low-hanging fruit certainly is Jackson Arnold because the heat is all over him, for all the reasons I just said a moment ago, so I don't need to regurgitate all those same talking points, but Jackson Arnold's a big one. I will go over to the defensive side, though, and give you one. Woody Washington, one for me.
Ooh, yeah.
He had a nice debut last week. Didn't play in the opener. Did play last week. Had 6 tackles, I think. Had some good coverage. Had an interception that got called back, but probably shouldn't have on that ticky-tack PI.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know where Gentry Williams is. He's another one that's kind of up in the air. Obviously, Kani Walker and Des Malone are both doing a nice job, but Tulane's got some guys. Tom talked about Mario Williams earlier. He's off to a great start. Obviously, Woody and Mario were teammates a few years ago.
They're still close from what I've been told.
There you go. They know each other. I mean, that's a fun little matchup there. And who better to try and slow him down than Woody, right? So that's a big one for me is Woody. And just continuing to build on it. He's a little bit of he's just been around so long. I think that OU fans, and we're guilty of it too, kind of take him for granted a little bit. He's Woody Washington. He's just kind of there. He's a really good football player. And it was nice to have him back last week. And I expect to see him have his feet more under him, obviously, with each passing week. And so he's a big one for me this week, especially if Gentry Williams doesn't play, which, again, that's another guy who's kind of up in the air right now. All right, do we want to pick this thing? Is anybody going to be bold enough? How are we feeling? Final score predictions for Oklahoma Tulane on Saturday. James, you drew the stick to start.
Oh, that's tough.
Prediction.
That's tough. Okay, see,
not a great one to have to start with.
The thing I keep going back on is I feel like it'll be a close game, but I don't think Tulane scores a lot of points against this defense. So I'm just being conflicted on what I would give them, without it sounding ridiculous. But let's go 17-14 for me right here. Let's give them 2 touchdowns.
Take the under.
It's just I think it's going to be a close game, especially if Nick Anderson isn't there to help this team out. But I think OU comes away with it, obviously, and gets the win. I mean, one of the things I want to pay attention to is they've spoken a lot about this offense playing vanilla because it's early in the season, things like that. I want to see them, try some different things here. Let's open it up some more and let's see what happens. I mean, you and I talked about it, Josh, on the post game. We were like, I mean, it doesn't seem like they're running any counters, anything like that in the run game. We talked about, especially it's usually like an inside zone. Looks like from my eyes, that's what it looks like he's running. And so, I want to see some more things to help open up that run game. And let's see some more routes and things like that. Let's open it up some.
I'm with you. I'm also going to go low, not quite that low, but low. I got Oklahoma 24-17. I think Oklahoma does win the game. Look, Tulane's got guys, like we just said, they're a good team. They are trotting a true freshman quarterback into Norman. Like Tom said, first road start. Tulane is good on the road. I think they've won 10 straight road games, true road games, which is a crazy number, especially for a G5 who plays games like this pretty regularly. But Darian Mensah, first road game, true freshman. I do think the defense is going to put up another good number. I'm going to lean that Oklahoma is better offensively. I can't muster that they're going to just go throw a 35-40 on the board after what we saw on Saturday. But I think they're better. Going to get in the end zone a few times. I think the defense is good enough, and Oklahoma kind of just grinds one out here and wins it 24-17. So I got the Sooners getting through it, and then we'll be on to Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Josh. I've got 31-17. So I have Oklahoma covering, but I'm taking the under.
Yeah.
The spread I think right now is 13.5. The over/under is 49.5, so just under that.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that this offense is going to look better this week. I still don't think they're going to be clicking on all cylinders, but I think they're going to be competent enough to be able to do some things that they've not been able to do these first 2 weeks. And look, even with Tulane scoring a couple touchdowns, I think that this Oklahoma defense is going to carry the way again. I wouldn't be surprised. Like you mentioned, Darian Mensah, first career road start, freshman. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see a defensive touchdown here. I'm not calling my shot like you did last week. I'm just saying I would not be surprised if they can get him a little bit rattled.
I got a safety. That feels like a half correct. Partial credit.
Yeah.
Safety.
Yeah.
No, this Tulane team look offensively like Mario Williams. They have a really solid tight end. You mentioned the running back, Mekhi Hughes. I knew he was good. I'd heard the name. He had almost 1,400 yards last year as a redshirt freshman. He's really good. So if they can run the ball and control the clock, that's scary.
And he likes contact. He is not afraid to get in there and pass block. So it should be interesting to see how that works out with Oklahoma's linebackers.
There's no doubt that they're going to try to control the clock too, Josh. I mean, like you just said it. They got a great back, and they saw what Houston did. That's why I'm picking lower. I feel like it's lower, like a scoring game, just because of something like that. But whatever happens.
They're more liable to take some downfield shots than Houston did, though. So I wouldn't expect Oklahoma's defense to be on the field for 35 minutes or maybe even 30 minutes in this game. But yeah, last week just felt like almost an aberration.
It was so bad that you almost can, surely it's not like that. But as low as 17-14 is, that's not as low as last week, 16-12. So, all right, well, we're all going to be there Saturday afternoon at the stadium, Oklahoma, Tulane, 2:30 kick. Be sure to check out Oklahoma247sports.com. Loads of coverage there leading up to the start of this game, of course, during the game, and then full reaction afterward. The three of us, Colin Kennedy, of course, on the YouTube channel. You can also get our instant reaction as well as reaction of Brent Venables, the coordinators, the players, all that stuff will all be there for you. For what's going to be an interesting day on Saturday. It could go a lot of different directions. The direction of this season, it kind of hinges on the next few weeks.
It's a big one.
We'll see what happens on Saturday. OU and Tulane at the stadium tomorrow afternoon. So we'll see you then. For Tom Green, James C. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway signing off for now. We'll see you tomorrow at the stadium, Oklahoma, Tulane in week 3.
See you.